You know, Friedrich Nietzsche, he had a reputation for, well, tearing down just about every idol he could find. So why on earth did he call a small group of ancient Greek thinkers giants? In this explainer, we're going to stage a philosophical showdown, one that's been 2,500 years in the making. Nietzsche versus the very first philosophers he ever seemed to truly admire, the Milesians.
I mean, coming from a guy famous for his takedowns, that's some seriously high praise. Before Plato came along, Nietzsche saw these early thinkers as something different, something special. Giants who are honest and pure. And it's this weird respect he has for them that makes what he says next so powerful and so fascinating.
All right, so who are we even talking about here? Who were these so-called giants? Well, we're talking about the pre-Platons, thinkers like Thales, Anaximander, and Anaximenes. These guys came before Plato completely changed the game. They were from the Greek city of Miletus, and they were the very first people to look at the world and ask, what is all this stuff really made of? For Nietzsche, that bold, straightforward approach was nothing short of heroic, even if he thought it was ultimately wrong.
And if you really want to get why he admired them so much, you just have to look at this contrast. He saw the Milesians as these purer, powerful thinkers, honestly trying to figure out the world. But Socrates? Oh man. Nietzsche basically called him a corrupter of the Greek spirit, someone who twisted philosophy into this dry, logical, life-denying exercise. So understanding his respect for the Milesians is absolutely key to understanding his whole critique.
But here's the twist, and you knew there had to be one. Even with all that praise, Nietzsche believed these giants made three profound, world-altering mistakes. But, and this is key, he saw them as honest mistakes. The kind of epic, foundational errors that only a true giant could make. Mistakes that would echo through Western philosophy forever.
Okay, so let's dive in. Let's break down Nietzsche's three big challenges to his philosophical heroes. And remember, this isn't some angry takedown. It's more like a respectful but really firm disagreement reaching across thousands of years.
So, mistake number one, it was their whole goal, their entire mission. The Milesians were convinced that out there, somewhere beyond what we can see and touch, there's a single objective truth, with a capital T, about the universe, and they believed our little human minds could actually grasp it.
And right here, this is the absolute heart of the conflict. The Milesians thought the mind could be this perfect mirror, reflecting reality as it truly is. Nietzsche comes along and just smashes that mirror to pieces. For him, there is no single objective world to see. There are only perspectives, endless interpretations, all driven by what he called the will to power. He'd say their idea that water is the source of everything, that wasn't a scientific fact. That was a powerful metaphor for their own will to impose a single, simple order on all the chaos.
And you know, Nietzsche wasn't the only one thinking this way. Centuries later, the philosopher Immanuel Kant made a pretty similar argument. He said, our minds are kind of like wearing a pair of colored glasses we can never take off. We can only ever see the world as it appears to us through those lenses, but we can never know the mysterious thing in itself, what the world is really like. This debate was clearly far from over.
All right, on to the second honest mistake. And this one's a big one, monism. You've probably heard the phrase, all is one. That was Thales. And what he was really saying is that all this incredible, messy diversity of life, the good, the bad, the struggles, the joy, it's kinda just an illusion, a mask, hiding one single unified source.
Now for Nietzsche, this was a really dangerous idea. Think about it. If the one is the only thing that's truly real, what does that say about our individual lives, about our struggles? It makes them seem less important, right? Almost fake. And in Nietzsche's book, any philosophy that devalues struggle is a philosophy that ultimately denies life itself.
But hey, even back in ancient Greece, not everyone was on board with this. There was this other guy, Heraclitus, who, by the way, Nietzsche loved, and he argued the complete opposite. He said unity doesn't exist despite all the conflict and change, it exists because of it. For him, the one wasn't some static thing, it was the process of constant struggle itself.
And that brings us to the third and final critique. This one's aimed at Anaximander and his really profound, kind of tragic idea of cosmic justice. He had this vision of the world as a system of cosmic debt. This idea that everything that exists is basically running up a tab. It comes into being by pushing something else out, and eventually it has to pay the penalty almost for the crime of just existing.
Nietzsche thought this was a brilliant insight, but man, was it gloomy. He completely rejected this idea that existing is some kind of crime or injustice. For Nietzsche, the whole point was to affirm life, to say yes to it all, the beautiful, the terrible, the joy, the pain, not to stand back and judge it as a debt that needs to be repaid. He felt like Anaximander was slapping a moral judgment onto a perfectly natural process.
Okay, so Nietzsche has laid out his case. Pretty powerful stuff, right? He's challenged the very foundations of his hero's thought. But here's the thing about philosophy. It's a dialogue, not a lecture. So, what if those giants could fight back? What if we gave them a voice?
All right, let's do something a little different. Let's imagine the impossible. What if we could pull Thales, Anaximander, and Anaximenes right here into the present to defend themselves against this modern upstart?
First up, Thales. He was a practical guy, an engineer, a man of action. He wouldn't mince words. I imagine he'd say something like, "You say there's no truth, only perspectives? Fine. I say the man who drinks water lives, and the man who drinks sand dies. Call that a perspective if you want. My search for unity wasn't poetry. It was a map to master the world, to predict the harvests, to build things. It wasn't about denying life. It was about thriving in it."
Next, Anaximander, the great systems thinker. I think he tried to reframe the whole debate. He'd say, "You misunderstood me completely. I didn't say existence was a crime. I said it was a system of balance. You talk about affirming life, about struggle. Well, without the penalty of winter, your precious affirmation of spring would be meaningless. My cosmic justice is the very thing that gives your struggle meaning."
And finally, Anaximenes. He'd go right for the jugular, challenging Nietzsche's core accusation of being life-denying. He might say, "My unity isn't a static cage. It's a process. I said the source was air, constantly moving, condensing, rarefying, connecting everything through breath. I gave you a world where everything is connected. Tell me, is that really less life-affirming than your lonely Superman creating his own values in a cold, empty void?"
So, who wins the debate? The ancient giants or the modern challenger? Well, honestly, that's the wrong question. This whole clash isn't about picking a winner. It's about seeing this fundamental tension in how we look at the world, a tension that started right here with these thinkers and is still going strong today.
This really boils it all down right here. On one side, you've got the Milesian quest. They're searching for the truth, for a stable, unified ground beneath all the chaos. And on the other side, you have the Nietzschean quest. It's not about finding truth, it's about creating meaning, embracing the struggle, and becoming a powerful force in a world of endless perspectives.
And look, this is not just some dusty old argument for a philosophy class. This tension is absolutely everywhere. You see it in the scientists searching for universal laws versus the artists creating a totally unique vision. You even see it in our own lives, don't you? Are you trying to find the one right way to live, or are you trying to create your own way?
So I want to leave you with that question, because it really gets to the very heart of this whole thing. Whose world feels more like home to you? A world with a single, stable truth out there waiting to be discovered? Or a world of infinite, powerful perspectives where you have the freedom and maybe the burden of creating your own?